One. Well, hey, Dave Melinda here, Positive Polarity Podcast. Hope things are going awesome for you this week. I got a great question for you. And I know better be yes to both of these. But the question is, do you want to expand your market? I should say your impact, expand your impact and accelerate your success. And I thought, wow, impact and success, two powerful words. So I'm like, I got to figure out who wrote that. So I'm honored to be hanging out with Antoniette. What a cool name, Antoniette Roze. How are you today?
I am well and super thrilled to be here with you, Dave. Positive polarity is one of my faves, so thank you for having me on the show.
Thank you so much. Super excited. I have to say your name's spelled like Antoinette, so I was all excited because I thought I knew it, and then we had to go through a little bit of practice. So I'm glad I nailed that. So thank you so much for hanging out with us today. You're the CEO at Wellness Productions Company, the WPC Speaker Agency. So fill us in on what's going on over there today.
Pretty dynamic. There's a lot going on, obviously, in the professional arena, right, in the world. Big shifts in both corporate and for entrepreneurs. So I also shifted. I was a producer of very large scale events for years, Wellness Productions
Sure.
Company. And so I've been putting speakers on stages for close to 30 years. I shifted about 8 years ago to putting speakers now on other people's stages, which morphed us into the WPC Speaker Agency. I believe in the power of voice for all of those reasons that you mentioned. For yes,
Sure.
expanding your market, definitely growing your brand.
Yeah.
And who needs to spend money on marketing when you have your voice?
Absolutely. Well, and I thought it was a really great connection because a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs around the world listening right now maybe have never thought of writing a book or speaking. And I know that those are some of the things that are in your wheelhouse. So I want to get into that, but I kind of want to figure out where you started because we do also have a lot of people, on this that are actually like hoping secretly that they could be an entrepreneur, a business owner, and they're not sure how. They don't know what that journey looks like. So, what did it look like for you on your journey? And I'm going to call you A because you said that was cool to call you A for the rest of the day. So, tell us how your journey started into the corporate, or not from corporate into being an entrepreneur. We'd love to learn more about that.
Thank you, Dave. So the inspiration started very young. I overcame, which I shouldn't have overcome, or at least all predictions were. At a pretty young age, they found late stage cancer, and it was too late for all of the usual treatments, right? Chemo, radiation. So I was sent off to a university hospital, kind of condensing this story, to experiment on what was done on me had not been done on a human outside of, animals in labs.
Mm,
And it worked. However, I wound up spending a year solid and then another year on and off in a children's ward, hundreds of miles away from my family. And I got to see the lucky children, quote unquote, lucky children, who were having the, again, quote unquote, correct or more mainstream
sure.
treatments. And I very quickly didn't feel so unlucky. And I remember thinking, because I still looked like a kid, right? I still, other than not being able to walk, I still had my hair. I was not
Sure.
swollen. My gums didn't
Sure.
hurt. I didn't have boils, all those things. And as I saw these kids that became my family during that time go through what they went through, I thought, why weren't their parents told there might be some other things that they could try first? And that question never left me. When I got to leave the hospital, and many of those children didn't get to see the rest of their lives, I determined very young that I would be their faces and their voices. I didn't know how I was going to do that.
Sure.
Um, I a business degree in college, computer information systems. When it was DOS, you had to put code in just to turn the computer on. and PR and marketing. I knew I wanted to create something. I wasn't exactly sure how I was going to do that. And then it really just happened organically, Dave. It was pretty neat when you're following just that inner gut. I made a
Yeah,
terrible employee. I worked for Porsche Cars North America. They kept
there you
trying to
go.
excel me. I just
Yep,
was not into the 9 to 5. I was just one of those that didn't it just didn't fit me.
sure.
So I started creating companies of my own pretty young, and always still in the back of my mind, knowing that I wanted everybody to be able to have access to information at the point that they needed it, be able to get all the options out on the table, whether it's personal development, physical help, professional development, whatever it was,
Sure.
just know what your options are
Yeah.
and then make a decision, an informed decision. And so I had a marketing company. I also had a bed and breakfast and two retreat centers. So I started using those spaces for my passion was natural wellness. So I would bring together doctors in the community who were more integrative, and they would come to my little 650 square foot lounge. And then we were just like busting out of the lounge, and they were standing on the back deck, kind of peering over other heads. And so I started renting a community center, busted out of the community center, and then started renting whole convention centers
Wow.
and did that for quite a while. Absolutely loved it. Feel very privileged to have had the people on my stages that I had and just that whole experience. But then I also knew that my impact or my ability to really get voices out there kind of ended at the number of engagements that I could create on my
Sure.
own.
Sure.
And so about 8 years ago, I made the big shift to putting these emerging voices. That's the area I love. I love to find those hidden gem voices who may not be a celebrity voice just yet, but they have an important message that people need to hear, and getting them on stages.
Wow, there's so much there. Thank you for sharing that. So how old were you when you survived cancer?
I was a young preteen into teen, so it was a 3 year whole journey,
My God.
but not a baby, but
Yeah.
obviously not an adult.
Well, and the reason that I asked that is because that seemed like that stemmed an early passion for you. And I think there's a lot of people listening, that might not even at their grown, whatever age they're at, they're still looking for that passion. So, any words of encouragement for somebody that's listening right now that, maybe hasn't found that passion yet for themselves?
Yeah, we always have, we each of us have that just deep inner core of some sort of change we want to see in the world. So if you can really tap into that, and it's deliberate, it doesn't just happen. You really need to tap in to your gut, right? What would you do if you were paid nothing? What would you
Yeah,
do if you had a cush retirement and you would still want to do this work? What could you
sure.
see yourself not getting bored of after years of doing the thing, right? Just think outside of your own box. Don't think of, well, I have to conform over here because of A, B, and C. I have to, like, just paint your own canvas. This is one of the first things I talk with an exercise I bring my speakers through. If I gave you just a huge blank white canvas and a magical cup of paintbrushes, and whatever
Yeah.
you painted on that canvas would be your life 3 years from now. What is not in that canvas would no longer be part of your life. What is on that canvas would be part of your life. If you could really put yourself in that place, that that inner knowing begins to emerge. And if you can, then when you know that, then you build the structure around it, right? I don't think there's any passion on this earth that's more moral and good
Mhm.
that you cannot build a sustainable, profitable, impactful business around. Start with that inner knowing, and then grow from there. It's the who, right? It's
Yeah.
who what. Everybody says know your big why. Yes, but first and foremost, know who you are, know who you want to, whose lives you want to change. Then the what comes, and the why just kind of encompasses all of it.
Well, and that's so like, I mean, that's knowing who you are is like seems so simple, but boy, that's so complex, right?
Yeah.
And whether it's DISC or whether it's emotional intelligence or strength finders, whatever it is, there's so much out there to try to help you know who you are because most people, I don't know about you, but most people that I run into don't seem to invest much energy in that piece. They've kind of just already accepted who they are and now they're just kind of moving forward there. Is it hard to stop and like just stop and just do that know who you are type of an exercise? Is that time consuming, I guess, is my first question.
It's certainly intentional. So you're absolutely right, Dave. We just kind of hit the ground running. That's why
Yeah,
when you see these ultra famous people, right, their whole lives implode because they hit the ground running, they build this huge mansion of a life. They get there and they're like, I resent this. I hate this. It's controlling every aspect of my life. I did not want a mansion on the beach with the windy sand, right? I wanted a cabin in the mountains with a little stream running by it. Right. It is
yeah,
very intentional. Stopping long enough to tune into yourself is not a luxury. It's not a nice have. It's a necessity. It's foundational to everything else you do. So again, that canvas, I have my each time you reach a new milestone in your life, you change, you evolve. Who you serve evolves. You've collected data all along the way, what you love doing, what people are leaning into, what they respond to. So revisit yourself each new major milestone. And I'll just let you know one thing that just a cautionary tale,
yeah,
right? So I, over a span of about 7 years, spent a lot of time and money in other people's trainings and programs and always a student, right? That's you should never stop being a student, never stop
sure.
having a mentor. But first and foremost, never give up the driver's seat. And I realized I had given up the driver's seat. I was dancing to this person's dance, dancing to this is the thing, this is the way that I'm supposed to go, dancing. And I didn't tune in to myself. And I will say I wasted a lot of precious resources doing that. The number one resource is the unrenewable one, time, right? You can't get back time. So just
Wow.
5 minutes a morning, 10 minutes a morning, get silent, turn everything off, and just tune into yourself. When I finally prioritized that, I actually walked away from a lot of money, right? Because a lot of these $25,000 programs are
Yeah,
time limited. And I was just
sure,
like, I have to turn it all off,
sure.
tune into my gut, and just get this show on the road. And the moment I did that, I went from no clients to all of a sudden a burst of clients. And my company hasn't stopped since then. So there's a delicate balance. Do not give away your power for someone to any other entity. You're not doing anybody any good service by doing that, whether it's family, a spouse, a business mentor, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
First and foremost, tune into that gut. It's worth that 5 to 10 minutes each morning.
Well, and I think it's hard, to look at a canvas because I did this once where we went to whatever the wine bar that you could also paint,
Oh
you
yes.
right? And I'm like, how hard can this be, right? So, I have my first cocktail or whatever, and I'm not really paying attention, and there's a piece of blank, canvas in front of me. And so then I'm like looking at it and I'm like, I didn't look at it in your lens where you are like, what do you want in your life in 3 years? I was just like, what am I in the mood to paint? And I tell you, I looked at that thing for probably 15 or 20 minutes and it started to get uncomfortable. And so then the lady behind the bar says, well, there's a whole room of books over there that you can look at for inspiration. So I get up and I walk over there and I'm like in my first book in my second picture, I'm like, if I need inspiration for my life from somebody else, I'm in a bad spot. So I close the book, I go back and I try to paint something. And now I'm starting to get these visions in my head but they're not able to be translated onto this canvas. Long way to ask the question of, it seems hard to really invest some time to get in, know who you are and know who you serve. Is it like a lifelong journey for this, or do you get like an aha moment and then you just kind of go from there? I'm just curious what your experience has been.
There are definitely seasons. There's bursts of growth and then maintenance and just kind of being in it. You get to a new level, burst of growth. And
Okay.
what my landscape guy is here. Are we good?
Yeah, yeah. I can't hear him. I can't see him, but
This is
I
a
can
good
hear him.
setup, so we're good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good, you're good.
Um, this is this is my routine. You find your each person needs to find their own because we're so individual, but this is
Right.
what helps me. So I happen to be a writer. I love just the act of writing, and there's a lot of neurological science behind the act of cursive writing.
Right. Sure.
Whole different topic. I hate that they've taken it out of schools because it's such a powerful tool.
Sure.
That's a different platform. But what I begin with is I get in tune with what's bothering me. So
Okay.
let's just say, um, let me think of an example. So I just begin writing, how do I? Why can't I? So an example might be, how do I better serve my team? If that's something that's kind of bothering me, needling me in the background, how do I spend more time with my husband, right? How do I, whatever it might be.
Sure.
So once you begin writing, it's just the act of when you are asked a question or when you ask yourself a question, not only your brain, but your whole body wants to answer that question for you. So
Okay.
just the act of asking yourself a question and just begin flow writing, not thinking too hard, just start flow writing. This is my process. All of a sudden, it's just like, wow, I came up with that.
Mm.
And obviously there's the whole universe came up with that. It's just I'm
Yeah.
allowing it, I'm getting in tune. So prioritizing, getting quiet, asking yourself the questions that you're afraid to ask yourself, right? Why don't I have patience with my child, right? Why do I
Right.
no longer want my dog?
Right.
Whatever
Sure.
the thing is that you're afraid
Yep.
to really tap into,
Yep.
ask the question and then begin just seeing what your body and your mind tell you.
Wow. That doesn't seem safe. Like, right, at the like, just at the onset, just first blush thinking about that, that doesn't seem safe, and so, I'm one like you said, find something think about what bothers you, so, if I think about somebody that, let's say they have an anger issue, I mean, that might be a blind spot. We talk a lot about blind spots because I might not even know that I do it. And so how do I like get clear with that? Because not a lot of, at least the people that I work with, a lot of people, they have blind spots and they don't even know. I've had people say, I didn't even know I did that. And so I'm just curious, how do you like from a self-discovery perspective, how do you like if you don't know it, you don't know it. How do you work with that then?
For me, I start with what I recognize, and then
Okay.
it's almost a little bit like reverse engineering. Once
Okay.
the flow begins, then the pieces really start coming together. So, for instance, you and I both know, or at least I'm assuming, that most angry people are hurt people. They're
Mm.
angry because they're hurt,
Right.
right? So the angry person might not say, why am I angry? But they might say, why am I constantly anxious? Or why do I never feel relaxed? Whatever you do recognize about yourself, why am I always irritated? Right?
Sure.
Just ask that question and you're right. It doesn't feel safe, but you're alone. You're with yourself. What's more not safe, right? What's less safe is to continue in that pattern that you're not happy with and that's holding you back. That's becoming basically your wall to your full potential, your wall to your greatest relationships, your wall to that joy is just on that other side that you can't seem to
Sure.
reach.
Wow. Well, I love the fact that you work with what you have because so many times I feel like I need to read a book or listen to this, or I have to learn something because I don't know it, right? But the reality is, like you're saying, is work with what you have. I think we probably know more. The more we sat with it, we probably know more than we really think. So I really appreciate that wisdom.
Every good thing can also be a curse. Every good thing
Sure.
can be a blessing and a curse. So we have the world at our fingertips, right in our pocket.
Yep.
I was in college in the 80s, and to get an answer, I had to go to the library, look through the microfilm, right? That I had to go through a lot to get an answer.
Right.
So you
Yep.
relied on yourself a whole lot more for that inner wisdom.
Sure.
Now we just pull out our phone and we Gemini it, or whatever it is that we do, and we
Yep.
no longer rely on ourselves. So really getting to that place where I'm not going to try to find my answers in everyone else. There's wisdom in many counselors, sure. You want to
Yep.
get some of that, but first and foremost, I'm going to tune in to me, and the rest is supplement versus the other way around. I'm going to tune into everybody else. Maybe I'll emerge from that. Doesn't generally work so well.
Wow. And I want to circle back before we jump into a break. I want to circle back on something you said, because you mentioned there was like the 9 to 5 didn't fit. And so I want to go all the way back to your journey, because if somebody's listening, I just want them to be able to, that resonate with them, because there are people listening right now, that 9 to 5 doesn't fit, and they don't understand why. Now, it's not that we're saying you don't have to work, or, you hate your boss. I mean, there's a lot of layers there, but there are people that are kind of born to be entrepreneurs, and 9 to 5 didn't fit. I just want to know, what did that look like for you when you say that didn't fit? What were some things that came up for you?
Yeah. So, if you don't mind if I start here,
Yeah.
I have 17 employees.
Okay.
What I've noticed are the ones who love WPC. They want to devote their lives. They love the mission. They love the culture. They are all about growing WPC as an integral part of their life. They are
Hmm.
dreams, right? They are golden diamonds. Those who come in and maybe they've got aspirations for their own companies, or they're kind of half in, half out, they generally don't last very long. They might be brilliant at what they do, but they're
Sure.
not all in. I was that person. Even for Portia, right? Or some of the other pretty amazing jobs I had, I loved the people, I loved the place. It was great pay, great benefits, but I was always one foot out. I wanted to create. I wanted to be. I wanted to pick what 80 hours I worked a week.
Yeah.
Right? I wanted to create
Sure.
my own way. And that was just something that was really burning within me. Whereas I have uncles and actually cousins who say, "Oh my gosh, that's a nightmare to me. I want to know that my 401k is being fed into every paycheck. I want to know I get to retire at a certain age." Like, that's drudgery to me. That's a dream to them.
Sure.
So again, tuning into who are you? Who
Yeah.
are you? Because you're created, you're fearfully and wonderfully made, right? You're
Yeah.
created. You
Yeah.
are who you are. When you try to be something you aren't, it just doesn't tend to work so well.
Sure. No, that's awesome. And I think that that's such great counsel to work within your lane. I run into so many people, that wanna run in somebody else's lane. They look at somebody and I'm even guilty of it, and I have to be careful for this for myself, stay in the lane that the Lord made for you, rather than have to go into someone else's lane, because at the end of the day, you know what? You might not do well in that lane.
Yeah.
And so I've learned that, man, there's just things that I'm good at, things that I'm not, and I'm created in a certain way, and it's just hard. I mean, that's just really hard. So when we come back, I want to kind of nail down how this speaking and writing, how that can catapult business forward, because I think this is a really good chunk. So we'll be right back.
Excellent.
Awesome. I am speaking with Antoniette. I did it right the second time. I'm so happy. And she is CEO at Wellness Productions Company. And we have been talking about how to accelerate your success and expand your impact. And I want to turn the corner here a little bit. I want some for you to help us understand for the entrepreneur, business owner, sales professional, person listening that maybe never thought of speaking in public or in front of other people, or writing a book. I want to kind of have you help us understand the power there and the impact there. Because unfortunately, the research shows that most people would rather be in the casket than speak at the funeral because we hate public speaking so much. So I'm just curious from your perspective, like being a speaker, how can that promote your professional growth?
Okay, I love this question, Dave. And it really ties into the who that we were speaking about
Yep.
earlier, right? And so when you step into this area of growing your business, growing a lifestyle that you want, right? Growing the revenue and the impact that you want, that legacy you want for your life, your
Yeah.
greatest tool, doesn't matter if you're a natural speaker or somebody who would rather be in the casket than standing in front, right, at the funeral. It's the same for all, that your voice is your strongest tool. And your voice can be expressed obviously through just visual, live in person, on the pages of a book, in newsletters and articles. It can be expressed in so many different ways. And what I've found, because I actually happen to be a very strong introvert, I fuel when nobody's around. My husband is opposite. He fuels when there's lots of excitement and people around.
Yep.
I can honestly say that I was I was driven to put people on stages so that I wouldn't have to be the one on the stage, right?
There you go.
Things
Okay.
have evolved. I'm on stages
Sure.
now. But this is the one key that I finally figured out that made all of the difference. If I'm nervous getting up in front of people and I'm just seeing blank, right? You don't even ask me my name. It's because I'm thinking too much about myself. Once I begin thinking about that one human being in that audience, whether it's an audience of 50 or 5,000, once I begin thinking about that one person I know that I can
Mhm.
make a difference in their life,
Yep.
all those nerves just kind of go away. I'm just speaking to that person. You don't really get nervous when you know you're helping someone, right? That all the nerves kind of fall down,
Sure.
dissipate. So that's just a trick that I've come up with. I mean, even the
Sure.
biggies, you think about Tony Robbins and some of the more well-known influencers,
Yeah.
they
Sure.
have a little routine before they get up on stage.
Right.
Anthony has a rebounder, right? He jumps on his rebounder a few times. He centers, he gets focused. If you do that, if you center and really focus on that one face that you're going to make a difference for,
Sure.
then your nerves become irrelevant, right? Because it becomes more about them than about you. So for each person, that pre-speech routine is going to be a little bit different, but
Okay.
it's coming back to
Sure.
getting in touch with your gut.
Sure.
With regards to why
Yeah.
would you even want to put yourself through that?
Right.
Your voice speaking, uh, I would say predominantly speaking. Yes, writing. Yes, there's other ways too, but when you're speaking, people get to see your mannerisms, your eye contact, who you are as a whole, your energy, right? All together.
Sure. Sure.
That is the most powerful tool that you have to really connect with people. And whether you're looking to attract keynote talks or you're really just looking to attract clients into your business, or maybe you're just want to make an impact for homeless people, or something that is dear to you, your greatest asset is going to be you speaking about it. Nobody else is going to connect with the people that you can connect with. So when
Yeah.
you understand that you can't give your shoes away, right? You can't say, here, you do it. They can have, another person can have your exact message, your exact IP, right? Your exact agenda, but they're
Mhm.
not going to connect in the way that you connect. So if you don't take that spot, it is an unfilled spot.
Mm.
Your voice matters if you really want to make that bigger impact and also achieve the lifestyle that you want, then save the marketing dollars and get your voice out there.
Sure. Well, and I think connection is such an important word, especially after COVID and everything, because who doesn't wanna connect with their client? Who doesn't wanna better connect with their team? Who
Yeah.
doesn't wanna better connect with their partners, you know? I mean, that's just kind of a given. But that's one class either I missed in school or they just don't teach as to how to connect with other people. We make the assumption that, you know, we're just gonna connect with somebody automatically. And it was funny, like you mentioned, you're an introvert. You know, I'm the same way, is like it takes all my energy to do this. My wife's just like your husband, where after a networking event, I'm like, honey, we gotta go home. I'm spent. She's like, "Oh, no, let's go out. We got," you know, and she's all full of energy because that it energized her rather than depleted her. Neither one's better or worse. But I just think for people listening, it's you think you know people being an introvert or an extrovert, and really that's a pretty deep topic that, you know, goes pretty darn into your soul. But I love the connection piece. Um, and I love that your voice matters. So is there a kind of a part-time thing where I could maybe, if I wanted to grow my business and just speak at a convention or speak at an association meeting or a chamber meeting, or because I think of, like you said, Tony Robbins, a full-time professional speaker. There's a bunch of people that are in that spot. But then if you don't aspire to that, is there a different way that you can use your voice and still be effective?
Excellent question. I'm so glad you asked this question. Yes, absolutely. I'm going to answer that in just a moment. I wanted to
Yeah,
speak really quickly to something you said. You are exactly right, Dave. So just like doctors, they get zero to very little nutritional training in the 6, 8, 10 years that
sure.
they're studying their craft.
Yeah,
Similarly, I'm a business major,
yeah,
right? I think I got zero to very little training in the world of communication. And that
sure.
is where that's the foundation of
Right.
success versus
Yeah,
if you're not connecting your brand to your audience, if you're not connecting yourself to your brand, if you're not connecting to the pains of the people that you serve, you don't
sure.
have a sustainable business. And so really kind of similarly, I don't know who gets to choose what we get taught, but that is a piece that has been really kind of left out of even some of these business mentors that we can hire. They
Mhm.
want to look at the tactical before they really get that foundation piece in there. So thank you for highlighting that.
Yeah, for sure.
With
I
regards, no, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just gonna say, I totally agree. It's easy in today's world to talk tactics, right? It's really hard to talk soft skills or whatever you wanna call them, people skills. That's a whole different thing, and so, you know, I think for the entrepreneur, it kind of forces you, like you said, back to what you were talking about before, it kind of helps you better understand yourself, and then you're able to then share that message and connect with other people. So we're right in line with that. And I think that expanding your impact and accelerating your success, I don't think you can do those if you really don't know who you are. It's
Yes,
really
and
hard, right?
who you want to reach, right? Who
Yeah,
you are and who's your best person. And which really is the answer to your next question. Like how do you just step out with your voice? Maybe you
yeah,
don't aspire to be a Tony Robbins. I don't even know that Tony Robbins aspired to be a Tony Robbins. For 10 years, he
sure.
was just holding these meetings in hotel rooms and, just trying to get his voice out there. His name didn't
Sure,
even really become a name until 12 years in. You don't need to take that long. We're in a different
sure.
world now, but he was figuring it out, who he
Yep,
was, what
yep,
his message was, who his people were. He was figuring it out.
yep.
And if you go ahead and start there, your journey is going to be a lot more direct than circling the mountain for 10 or 12 years. Figure out who you are and what message you want to get out there to who. And then that shows you where to go with that message. And I love that you said this, Dave, because it's exactly where you should start. Start local,
Mhm.
then go to associations, and then organically,
Yep,
because when you're starting local, you're just getting your voice out there, maybe for pay, maybe
yep,
not for pay. It's really the journey of you understanding yourself more. When I spoke on this, I felt in my zone and
yeah,
people were leaning in. And so you're
yep,
collecting data every step of the way. And then when associations are a little bit lower hanging fruit, podcasts, you're in the top 2 or 3%, like
yeah,
you're out of
yep,
3.3 million some
yep,
odd podcasts. Amazing. You found your voice and you found your who. People are resonating
sure,
with what was important to you. Right. And so it's striking a chord. That's what you need to discover for yourself. Nobody outside of you is going to find that for you. They might be able to guide you and give you some directions. You don't make a lot of mistakes along the way or waste a lot of time
sure,
and resources.
yep,
But at the end of the day, once you know who you are, who you want to reach, what your message is, then that tells you, uh, me speaking at the local university. This is where my people are, or me speaking at the women business groups, whatever it is, that really dictates where you're going to go speak. I'm going to go speak at gyms. I'm going to offer a talk at gyms, whatever it might be. And then as you're getting your voice out there, it's just forming a life of its own because of the data that you're collecting. And then from there, once your message really starts rolling and you see people responding, what you thought you would dread, you just can't wait for the next one because you're
yep,
changing lives.
yep,
And your best your best place for engagements is is an engagement. So when you're
yep,
speaking, you will have people come up to you afterwards. Hey, that really drove home something that I want to see happen in my own company
yep,
or at my organization. What's your fee?
right,
Can you bring you
yep,
in? Mhm.
yeah. That's so powerful. And that, that so happens. I remember back to my first episode of my podcast, it was May of 2020, and it was like right in the midst of, everybody shutting everything down, and it was really hard to continue to have networking. So I'm like, well, for me personally, I'm like, I'm just going to keep networking once a week. I learned this thing called Zoom. And I never used it before, and I'm like, well, I'm just going to pick one person. I'll start with people that I know and just check in with them, see how they're doing, how can I help them, just purely as a like a coffee type thing. And I'm like, well, as long as I'm doing that, I might as well like record it because maybe something good's going to come out of it. And I'm like, well, as long as I'm going to record it, I might as well let other people hear it. And I just remember my first with my buddy Wayne, we talked to LinkedIn, and it was crazy because I thought I was going to tell the world something, and it took all of like 9 seconds. And I realized this whole podcast thing isn't have nothing to do with me. It's the guest and the audience. And
Yes.
so I love that piece. And so that just kind of naturally shows up. So I think that's great. That'll automatically build your professional growth. But I want to ask a question as we start to land today, because there's people, I'm guessing there are people listening right now that are going, that sounds really good. I want to grow, I want to expand, I want to accelerate, but I am like, I don't have a good message. Self-doubt comes in. low self-esteem comes in, right? I could never do it. So what are some secret weapons that you have learned that would captivate your audience? What are some things that the average person could just like, not again, captivate the world, just captivate the audience that they're in at that moment?
That's yeah. So imposter syndrome is a real thing, but
Yep,
really what it spawns from is when we're comparing ourselves to others. So
sure.
again, that's us focused. I'm comparing myself against this other speaker who is passionate about what I'm passionate about. And they've already got it covered, right?
Yep,
You are leaving out that person who's laying awake at night praying for the answers and solutions that only you have the style and background and point of view that will connect with them and really help them get past their own
yep,
pain. So again, focus on them, not on yourself. And that's really where it all comes from. That's where it all really starts happening when you
sure.
find yourself slipping into that. Well, gosh, I need, and things like Toastmasters, NSA, join all of those. Those are amazing tools to just help you organize your thoughts and at least begin exploring what your message might be. But the more you're thinking about the person that you can make an impact and change in their lives, the
Yeah,
more your message really starts to gel and it
sure.
becomes yours.
Yeah. Wow, that's so cool. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Joel Osteen. I love listening to him. I watch him and I'm realizing every time he has no notes. I mean, I'm like super envious, right? And then like you just said, then the imposter syndrome comes in and goes, "Well, how come you do this?" Or so there are a lot of those things out there that hinder us from getting our voice out.
Yeah,
And I
and you
just want
think
to
of
encourage
Joel
people.
Osteen, there's a lot
Yeah,
of people who don't enjoy him because he's got a certain way about him, right?
sure.
Where
Yeah, yeah,
you have a softer, more grounded, more I can sit down and have some coffee with you and talk with
sure.
you and feel like you're not, you're not in a
Yeah,
different place than I am. So
sure.
those people's hearts and minds and ears are going to be more open to you. Might be the same message. You might be giving the same message that Joel
Exactly.
Osteen is giving.
Yep,
They will
yep,
not receive it from Joel, but they will receive it from you. So own who you are and know there is nobody else on this planet. If you don't step into those shoes, like I said earlier, nobody else can. So if you don't fill those shoes, they're empty shoes, right? Those are people that are going to go unhelped because
yep,
you're just afraid that those shoes belong to somebody else.
right. And I used to believe, that no, somebody else will do it, right? And then I started to realize that that's what you're saying is accurate. And again, it's accurate for me. I'm hoping that for people listening, I'm hoping that they're seeing how their voice could help their business. I'm hoping that they see how their voice could help their team. Whatever it looks like, there are people that need you. And again, if you're in the expansion or acceleration business, if you are looking to do that, these are just some great ways to help. So I really appreciate that piece. And it's hard to captivate an audience technically because you can try to inflect at the right time, you can try to say the right words. And I'm learning as the more that I speak, I'm learning the more that I say what's in my heart. Like when I say I'm struggling with, for whatever reason, everybody's ears perk up,
Vulnerability. Yes.
right? They
Hey,
love being
Dave,
vulnerable. So,
scrappy is the new perfect. None of us, we were all destabilized as a globe at the same time. We don't relate to perfection. You even see these celebrities now who look like they've pulled out their cell phone and have done a selfie, right, for their
right.
promos. That's by
Yep.
design. The
Yep.
market is realizing that people are gravitating towards authenticity, to vulnerability, to scrappy, right? I
Yep.
just want the real and raw. I don't want this untouchable perfection. So embrace that imperfection. Go out there, do it scared, do it imperfect, and your right fit people will just latch on.
That's so cool. I got two questions and I'm gonna let you go. Number one, I want to get a brief review on Speak Pact, your new podcast. You're about 20 some episodes in, so congratulations. That's so cool. So fill us in on what do we listen to each time that we would enjoy an episode.
Yeah, thank you, Dave. So we launched in February, and I wasn't sure if I was going to love it or not love it. It just seemed the natural next thing to do. I'm loving
Sure.
it. And it is
Good.
really grabbing a lot of attention and gaining traction. So I'm just so thankful. Speak Pact came out of, again, that passion that more voices get out there. And I saw this whole world of emerging speakers that were being underserved. And I had the contacts. I have relationships with other agents, with bureaus, with
Sure.
media, with speakers who have quote unquote made it, right? They've got those nuances and those insider insights that can help these younger voices, right? These
Yep.
voices that are yet to emerge. And when I say younger, one of my clients is well into his 80s, and he's just getting his voice out there, but he has a young voice. He's still figuring out his message and who's going to latch onto that. That
Sure.
is what Speak Pact is all about. So speakpact.com, you can follow it on um, any of your favorite channels, but it was a
Sure.
pact, PACT, to impact you, me, our audiences. Let's have this one core thing in common, and that is to make the biggest impact that we can. And of course, my point of view is that comes largely from speaking out.
Sure. Wow. Speakpact.com. So
Yes.
head on over there after this, after we finish this and check it out and hopefully you'll enjoy it. My last question is, what would your tip of the day be for somebody listening? Um, maybe it's something that we've talked about, maybe it's just something burning in your heart that you want to make sure that somebody is hearing, but what would your word for the day be today?
Don't apologize for driving. Get into your own driver's seat and
Okay,
own it. That's your most powerful life.
that's cool. That's so powerful. Let that sink in as you're listening here now. And again, rather than jump into your next podcast or jump into your next activity, I always encourage people to just kind of sit for a minute. What did you learn? What did you take away? Because I know for myself, there was a time where I was reading like a book a month. And then I realized I looked at this book and I couldn't even remember if I read it. I'm like, well, that's not what this is about. So I've slowed my roll way down, hoping again, I don't care how many or how few books that you listen to. I just know that when wisdom comes across your brain, I just want you to let it soak in because A shared a ton of great stuff with us today. And for somebody that wants to learn more about you, maybe they want to learn more about the wellness productions company. What's the best way for people to connect with you, A?
Speakpact.com has a way that you can connect with me. Also, if you are a speaker or want to become a speaker, speakerbooker.com will get you an appointment with me. And if nothing else, if you're a great fit, I'll list you as a WPC recommended speaker. No charge. You just have to qualify. And then, of course, if you know you want to go that direction, have no clue how you want to do that, I can certainly help you get there.
That's so cool. That's a hard one to say. Speak Booker?
Speaker, so speaker
Oh,
booker,
Speaker Booker.
speakerbooker.com. Yep.
Speakerbooker.com. There you go. Or speakpact.com.
Yeah.
So what a bunch of great information. And I think we'll end today with just reiterating the fact that your voice does matter. If you're listening here, there's a reason that you're here. And we know this goes all over the world, and we're excited that your voice matters. I know mine does. A knows that hers does. And how cool is that? So, any parting words on your end before we hang it up today?
Just thank you for having me on this show. Like I said, positive polarity is one of my favorites. I love the guests that you bring on. I love the thought provoking that you do, right? And that comes from Dave. It comes from you. So thank you for having me, bringing me into this world. And hey, give Dave all the flowers, give him those 5 stars. If you're getting value out of his show, that's how you show us, right? We're not asking for anything but just to know that we're striking a chord with you.
Yeah, it's so cool when you see that somebody said, "Hey, I can't believe you said this. I was thinking it. I love what you said." Those are just great affirmations. So, yeah, absolutely. And make sure and head over to speakpack.com and give her a shout out on her new venture. It's always unnerving if you're like, "Is anyone listening?" So, especially at that 20, I'm guessing most podcasts end right around 20 to 30 episodes because there was this elation that just turned into major disappointment. So, work through it. People are listening. Your voice is making a difference, and thank you again for being here, and thanks for all you're doing.
Thank you so much, Dave. Ciao, ciao for now.